The missile is now locked on target. When the missile has launched, the TV video will disappear, and the PaveTac's infrared video will be used to aim, track, and determine the success of the strike.
The difficulties of flying the F-111 are primarily in the night regime or in the bad weather, and that's where we're really kind of a king of the hill in terms of abilities in the world. The 111 was designed to operate at night in bad weather at very low altitudes, and coupled with that, my job is to look at a radar set and to constantly determine our position and make sure that we're going exactly where we want to, and that our navigation and bombing system is really accurate. And that enables us to deliver the weapons, to drop the bombs on target. So it's a very difficult part of my job to constantly be evaluating the airplane's position and how good the navigation system is.
The objective of the strike was to take some airplanes that could go a long ways, carry a lot of bombs, and could precisely hit targets in any kind of weather, and take off and refuel and get there in any kind of weather, and hit targets that were very close to areas where you just wouldn't want to put bombs. So that was our mission. And as a wing, we all pitched in and contributed.
April 14th, 1986. F-111s of the 48th Tactical Fighter Wing leave RAF Lakenheath as part of the American strike mission against Libya. In response to a wave of Libyan-sponsored terrorist acts, the United States will strike 5 targets. Colonel Paul Fazakerly, a member of the 48th Fighter Wing, explains.
The Navy's very capable of doing this kind of a mission, and they could drive carriers up there, and that's why we buy aircraft carriers, project power and drop bombs. But in this particular case, we had 5 targets that we wanted to take out pretty much simultaneously. The Bonita and Benghazi were the airfields to the east of the Gulf of Sidra. And then we had 3 targets in the Tripoli area, the downtown headquarters complex, the swimming pool, which is an underwater demolition team headquarters, and a frogman-type training center, as well as a 3rd target, which was their airfield that they used to use their IL-76 transport aircraft to transport their terrorist activities, or to use to support the terrorist activities. So with 5 targets and the amount of defenses that were right around the Tripoli airport and the town itself, it became an atmosphere where using the A-6 off of a carrier, it's a little bit slower, it flies a little bit higher, it doesn't have quite the capability to hit the targets as well as the F-111. It was decided at the 11th hour that it would be better if this would be a joint mission, since we had practiced that contingency option. And so they decided to, the National Command Authority decided to go ahead with that plan as a joint option, and the 111 would be best suited for going into the area that was the most heavily defended. And it could survive much better than, and hit the targets with minimum collateral damage, where the A-6 would have I think a problem in that area without an enormous amount of support. So the Air Force picked up the western targets, which were in downtown Tripoli area, and the Navy picked up the 2 airfields to the east. And it worked very good because we had trained with the Navy. We had a Navy liaison officer in the squadron, and everyone was comfortable with the geographical separation of the 2 services, and yet working together, sharing a lot of mutual supports. In the 48th Wing at Lakenheath, we took off from home and flew over 14 hours. It was just about 14 hours and 10 minutes was the longest mission, and refueled 3 or 4 times, maybe even as much as 5, because we wanted to optimize our refueling on the way down to be as close to full tanks just prior to drop-off down in the Italian area. There was no problem staying awake and being alive and on the way down, as far as the crews commented. We had a little bit of problems with airplanes because the F-111 is typically a 2.5-hour mission airplane. When you fly it for 5-6 hours and then go hit a target, you know, who knows what's going to be left of it. You know, so even though we had tracked the airplane's maintenance capability, it was really gutsy to take an old airplane like that far and then expect it to perform. So of the 24 airplanes that we had started with, we took 18 down there, and then of the 18, we had actually 11 go into the target area. So we did have some maintenance problems, and we fully expected to with taking an older airplane that far. And we had very, very strict rules of engagement because we didn't want to throw bombs off into the middle of the town. And this is the route that was flown. That's a picture of the attack radar. And the attack radar on an F-111, which you see there, exercise and train following radar, is the key to terrain avoidance. The paved tack pod rotates out of the bay, as you see in this picture, and the whole bay rotates in order to have your laser capability to spot a target. That's the laser picture, the forward-looking infrared radar. The airplane tosses the bombs and then turns in a 135-degree wing-over move, puts the crosshairs right on the target. Now you see the target there is the headquarters complex. To the right and off to the bottom of the screen is the tent, which was not a target. Most folks think that was the target. But the crosshairs are exactly right on the point where they should be, and the laser will be turned on at the last 8 seconds of the flight of the bomb, and the bomb will come in from above and destroy the target. In this particular case, the bombs landed right at the front door and skipped into the headquarters. There was some good BBC footage that showed it all pretty much gutted out the next day. There's a clip of ZSU 23-4 and just different kinds of artillery. There was a lot of artillery barrages and flares fired off. The flares were the thing that was most disheartening, really, from a standpoint of a guy that wants to go down and fly at night and not see anything like that. They distract you quite a bit. The other target that you're going to look at here is the airfield. The airplane is turning to the right because there was a little bit of an error in the radar offsets, but now the forward-looking radar has got it on a paved tack. The bombs are gone, and you see of the 12 bombs, 1 comes off slick, which didn't go off, and then 11, which you see circled, they're scattered out in about a 700-foot by 300-foot pattern. They would go ahead and take out the IL-76s on the ramp at the Tripoli airport. And then you see a rear view of them hitting the targets. And then after the mission, the strike force would fly out into the Gulf and be protected by the Navy in case someone was chasing you, and then right on out the same way we came in, with a couple of refuelings on the way home. What you like to see is every single airplane hit every single target with perfect footage of the film. Well, that just doesn't happen. So we had a lot of folks that had to pull off to avoid collateral damage. We had people with airplane problems, and a lot of folks have said, well, the airplane just didn't hold up, and there was problems, and it didn't do the mission as well as expected. Well, the mission was to have visible damage on 3 targets. You just saw very, very vivid visible damage on 2, and there was another tape of the 3rd which shows the swimming pool with the water draining out of it. That was the mission. And that's all that counts, is if you can show that you have destroyed or had visible damage on those 3 targets that were tied to the terrorism activities. And with those tapes, it's obvious that the mission was accomplished. And that's the overall good part, is that it was accomplished. It was accomplished by the F-111, an old aircraft. The aircraft is still accomplishing those type missions. I think that the F-111F, the one with the laser capability, will be with us for quite a while. And hopefully, my own biases are that we get those kind of capabilities tested and worked into some of our newer airplanes, especially ones that we can put on aircraft carriers and project that kind of precision power.
Robert McNamara's dream of a fighter bomber for both Air Force and Navy use never came true. But the plane he approved has, over the years, become the finest tactical